Welcome everyone to today's session titled Unlock the Full Potential of Windows 365 to Maximize Security and Increase Productivity. Today's event is being recorded on behalf of Microsoft and the Missing Link. After the session is completed, the recording will be available by accessing the registration link you used to join the event. To learn more about the ways you can participate in today's event, please click on the message button in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. We encourage you to interact by using the message panel at any time to ask questions regarding content or to request technical support. We will respond to your technical questions as they come in, and questions regarding the content will be addressed at the end of the session. Closed captioning is available during this event. To view the captioning, please press the CC button on the lower left of the presentation screen. We will post a link to the event survey during the last 15 minutes of the session. It will also appear in your message panel once the session is over. We ask that you please take a quick minute to complete this short survey. Now I'd like to introduce the first presenter, Paul Bristow. Paul is the Senior Account Executive at the Missing Link. Paul, you have the floor.
Well, thanks, Sandy, and good day, everybody. My name is Paul Bristow, as Sandy said. I'm with the Missing Link, and welcome to you wherever you may be today. So today we're sharing our Windows 365 webinar, and I'm joined by my colleague, Jimmy Morrow, Senior Project Consultant here at the Missing Link, and our special guest today, Pratima Singh, Technical Specialist for Modern Endpoint at Microsoft Australia. In this session, we're going to cover a quick overview of Windows 365, some of its use cases and advantages. Then Jimmy will be giving us a Windows 365 technical solutions overview. He'll be followed by Pratima, who will be giving us a demonstration of Windows 365 administration. And finally, we'll have time at the end of the session for questions and answers. And as Sandy said, if you do have any questions, you can post them in the chat window during the session, and we'll get to as many as we can during the Q&A. If we don't get around to answering your questions, then we will certainly follow up with you later, post this session. Also, you will receive a recording of the webinar after the session. So without further ado, let's get started. I think first up, it's probably worth setting the scene here with a quick look at the concept of hybrid work and hybrid devices, because it's highly relevant to today's topic, which is Windows 365. So up until around about 2 years ago, prior to COVID, there was this notion of working from home, which was, shall we say, convenient for those privileged few who did it, but not always completely effective or productive. Then suddenly, with the advent of COVID, working from home became a wholesale necessity for almost everyone, but unfortunately not the best of experiences for users, and certainly a security and performance concern for IT departments. Some 2 years down the track now, and I think it's fair to say that things will not go back to how they were pre-COVID. People have realized, I think, that they can be just as productive, and in some cases more productive, working from home. And you know, with almost the passing now of the epidemic, and certainly the passing of homeschooling, most polls will show and do show that people now prefer to work from home. Hybrid works, therefore, really has become a key consideration now when they're looking for new careers or new employment. And for business, trying to satisfy this need of a more flexible approach to work is a key issue for them when they're looking to attract and retain key staff members. I'll just digress for one quick second here. I don't know if anyone saw on LinkedIn this morning, but I think in Belgium, they've officially passed now a 4-day work week. So employers now have an actual choice. So there's an example of this change in the way we do things. However, there is a paradox here. Recent surveys show that people still want to collaborate just like they did in the office, but they don't want to be there anymore. And this trend to hybrid is manifesting itself in different ways, with new sort of innovative engagement models, like we just mentioned, between the people who actually do the work and the organizations that need the work done. Today, we're going to look at modern work infrastructure, and in particular, Windows 365, to see how that can help in addressing some of these challenges. So what is Windows 365? Well, first and foremost, it's a cloud-based service in which a virtual machine becomes a cloud PC. Windows 365 securely streams your personalized Windows desktop, your apps, settings, and content from the cloud to any of your devices through a browser. This PC is highly available with a one-to-one relationship between the user and the device, and it's also instantly scalable. We can see here on the left a standard PC with the operating system installed on it, accessing Azure Active Directory and hence Office 365 apps. On the right, we see, let's say, a Chromebook using a browser to access the PC, to access the cloud PC and streaming the OS to the Chromebook, then accessing Azure AD in the same way and hence the Office 365 apps. So cloud PCs are created automatically by the Windows 365 service. As soon as a license is assigned to an end user with an Azure AD account, the cloud PC is built. There are two offerings. One is Windows 365 Business and the other is Windows 365 Enterprise. And there are a number of machine sizes inside the Windows 365 service. And as we said, when a user is assigned a license, the cloud PC is created automatically to the specification chosen. So that would be your vCPU, your RAM, and your storage for that particular machine. It works just the same as on any other PC in your fleet, and can access all of the same applications and can even be device managed with Intune. So as we said, your cloud PC can be accessed from any device with a browser. And as you can see on this slide, it's just a simple URL entered into the browser. And when Windows 11 screen appears, the user just logs on as they normally would. From an IT admin's viewpoint, it's very simple to deploy. You just pick a Windows 10 or Windows 11 image from the Windows 365 gallery and assign a license to the user. You can, if you need, customize the image. You can customize the image later to bring it in line with the rest of your fleet if you need to do that. Remember, you don't have to build the cloud PC. That happens automatically when the user is assigned a Windows 365 license. The good news is existing user applications, so Office 365, Teams, OneDrive, Edge, etc., are all available straight away without the need to load them. Lastly, the machine images I spoke about are updated monthly by Microsoft with the latest security features. So that removes the burden from IT having to do that. So what can we use it for? Well, if as we believe working from home or remote work is here to stay, then security is a key concern, especially as devices are now connected to a user's home internet. The cloud PC, however, it's actually inside the Azure Network Edge. And that's a great place where, from an IT admin point of view, you can secure and manage it to whatever corporate standards you have. So just compare this to how much extra workload work from home has created for IT departments trying to address this security concern. There's a big difference there. And also, don't forget with Windows 365, your Windows 10 or Windows 11, as I said before, is kept up to date by Microsoft. You don't have to do it. So some industries need temporary staff and workers. Here, Windows 365 is ideal. It's very easy to provision, easy to deprovision, easy to scale, and it's all at a predictable cost. So, it doesn't have to be a big expensive project. And what about contractors? So they almost always have their own device set up for how they want to work. The problem is letting them use that device in your corporate environment has always posed problems in terms of compliance and security. With Windows 365, you can provision a corporate machine for a contractor, but they can still use their own device to access it. And in fact, we're currently doing a proof of concept with a client who has a large team of semi-permanent based contractors, and they're all based overseas, and they currently have to ship them a device. Now they can have the device ready in minutes. Furthermore, you can now use this device for the work role rather than the user. So what I mean by that is, for instance, if you have a new contractor replacing an old contractor, then you can simply give the cloud PC to the new contractor and they can continue doing the work. Finally, for those people running VDI environments, or your traditional VDI environment, you should consider the all-up costs. So things like licensing, admin, hardware, also the performance, the user experience, and compare this to a Windows 365 deployment where you can give your users a consistent, high-quality experience. And there's no need for all the time and technology that comes with traditional VDI setups. Finally, before I hand over to Jimmy, who will cover this topic in more detail, let's just have a quick look at why a cloud PC with Windows 365 could be a great opportunity to use Windows 11. So firstly, let's remember, you don't have to keep the OS updated. That's done for you, as we said. And as we said previously, you can select from a gallery of pre-existing images for your cloud PC, and that of course includes Windows 11. So is using Windows 11 in your cloud PC environment an opportunity to enhance security? And maybe look, for example, at something like Zero Trust for that cloud PC fleet. So without going too deep, it's important to know the Windows 11 OS is exclusively a 64-bit operating system. And what this means is the OS now has room for processes like virtualization and containerization on the processor. So now, by using hardware-based isolation, we can isolate untrusted websites and files, and we can put them into containers separate from the operating system and the data. And that's just one instance of Windows 11 security features. So, what a great learning experience and opportunity this could be to enhance your business's security posture, especially for remote users. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Jimmy, who's going to give us a technical overview of Windows 365.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Really looking forward to talking to you all about Windows 365. Today, as Paul mentioned, I'll be running through a technical overview of Windows 365 and how it works, how it fits together with Windows 11 as well. I'll be diving into a few different topics, how you can use Windows 365 to create a desktop as a service experience, using Windows 365 and the enterprise gallery that Paul was talking about, sizing and scaling Windows 365 cloud PCs, how to know when you need to upscale and upsize VMs to suit the current workloads, and how Windows 365 and Windows 11 are built to work together with improved security architecture. And finally, at the end of my presentation, I'll be handing over to Pratima, who will be running through a demonstration of the end user experience and the admin experience for Windows 365. Cool. So first place to start is normally what is Windows 365? Well, whether you need to deploy devices for a new starter quickly or build a new remote access solution, pilot testing applications, OSs, or a new standard operating environment, before deploying it to a live environment, Windows 365 is a quick and easy way to provide a streamlined end user experience and a simple management experience for administrators for new workstations. Windows 365 is a persistent virtual desktop, consistent and aligned to a single user. And that can be tailored to the specific end user to provide a seamless experience across all devices and platforms from a single URL, the same URL Paul had on his slides earlier. With the Windows 365 Enterprise Gallery, you also have the option to use existing pre-built operating systems, either Windows 10 or Windows 11, various versions of each. You also have the ability with the Enterprise Gallery to upload your own custom SOEs or images. These can be new or existing SOEs that you've built for previous iterations of hardware. But what that enables you to do is keep the environment secure and stable and consistent across all users and all devices. Streaming a cloud PC, it ensures not only that the end user experience is consistent, and I will be saying the word consistent a lot through the presentation because that's a big part of what Windows 365 offers, is a consistent experience. The Windows 365 streaming the cloud PCs gives you a consistent experience across any location or office or device, whether it's at home, in an office, working from an iPad or Mac OS X PC, or even a home Windows 10 PC, just the home machine. You also gain the confidence of Microsoft Azure's identity protection across all of those devices and platforms. You can leverage things like sign-in risk, user risk, or conditional access. With Windows 365, deploying new dedicated cloud PCs is simple and easy. It's easy to manage. It's all contained within Microsoft's Endpoint Manager, or Intune if you're familiar with that term. And within Endpoint Manager, you're also able to leverage meaningful metrics that'll show when you need to scale out the machine, when PCs are no longer handling their current workloads, if you need to upgrade various resources, and we'll be showing that in the demo a bit later in the presentation. But all those scaling, all the upgrades, the changing to resources that I was mentioning, that can all be done on the fly. So you don't need to rebuild or reimage or present new virtual infrastructure. It's all done seamlessly. Finally, as I mentioned, cloud PCs can also be accessed across any device. Mac OS X, iPads, iPhones, Androids, Windows PCs, Linux workstations, and that flexibility of the cloud PCs being able to be accessed from any device or platform enables delivery of a subscription-based workstation, desktop as a service, rather than having users tied to specific hardware. The next topic I wanted to dive into was specifically the Windows 365 Enterprise licensing that Paul mentioned earlier. As he mentioned, there's two licensing options. There's first Windows 365 for business, Windows 365 Business, and the second is Windows 365 Enterprise. And Windows 365 Enterprise, out of the two of them, is definitely the more feature-rich option, which is why I wanted to dive in that a bit more about what you get out of that enterprise license. Before we get into sort of the features, there are a couple of prerequisites for using Windows 365 Enterprise. The first of all being an Azure subscription. It is strongly recommended that the Azure subscription is in the same region, as the Windows 365 Cloud PCs. Next prerequisite is a virtual network, a VNet within Azure, and that Azure VNet must have a route to a DNS server that can resolve Active Directory records either on premises or within Azure. The AD environment has to be in sync with Azure AD to provide hybrid identity management via Azure AD Connect. And finally, Azure AD Domain Services is not currently compatible with Windows 365. It has to be a full implementation of Active Directory. So now that we have the prerequisites out of the road, a couple of the benefits of using the enterprise license for Windows 365. First of all, you get provisioning policies. The Windows 365 provisioning policies allow you to define different criteria or different groups that would receive a different or a specialized cloud PC. For example, if you have developers doing application development, they may need to run a different operating system or SOE to normal staff. That might be for performance reasons. They might need, increased resources, RAM, CPU, that sort of thing. As such, you would assign your development team to a different provisioning policies to the standard users or for the admin team, for example. So the development team can have access to the increased resources or the latest OS or OS builds. For example, if you're doing application development for Windows 11, you can provide your developers with a Windows 11 workstation before rolling out to the rest of the business to check compatibility and application availability. When creating a Windows 365 provisioning policy, as I mentioned, you have the option to choose the pre-built operating systems, Windows 10 or Windows 11, from the Enterprise Gallery. You also have the option to upload your own custom image. So if you're using, if you have a golden image with a VDI solution or imaging solution like SCCM, something like that, you can, continue to use an existing golden image, or you can create your own custom image new for Windows 365 Cloud PCs. And then with enterprise licensing, you have the ability to upload that into the gallery and build machines from that. So you're not limited to just the pre-built images that are there. You can also upload your own custom images and continue to have that flexibility, security, and control within Windows 365. Just continuing on with some of the benefits of Windows 365 Enterprise. All the Windows 365 Cloud PCs are persistent and assigned to a user. Like Paul was mentioning, they're all assigned to a specific user account, and that is kept tied to the device. So each time the user logs on to their Cloud PC, they're logging onto the same desktop. They're not going for a fresh VDI session each time. They're not being placed on the least utilized terminal server or anything like that. It is a one-to-one relationship between user and Cloud PC. And with that, administrators also have the ability to elevate and revoke user permissions to Cloud PCs in real time. So, for example, if you need if a user needs to, or a developer needs to install a specific application on their Cloud PC, it's a one-off request, or if a setting needs to be changed, someone needs to adjust firewall settings for testing a specific application, administrators can elevate that user specifically on their cloud PC to have administrator access, ensuring if they need to perform any ad hoc software installs or configuration changes that it can be done easily without major interruptions to the end user. And it also happens seamlessly without any direct intervention on the workstation. You can also fully leverage Microsoft Endpoint Manager for both user and device policies. All cloud PCs are managed by Microsoft Endpoint Manager within Azure, meaning if you have any existing compliance policies, configuration profiles, or application packages that you're pushing out to workstations, you can reuse those to suit any requirements that you have within the cloud PC fleet, or you can create new policies and profiles packages to suit the specific workloads that you want your cloud PCs to manage. So the really important point there is if you have an active Intune environment, if you have Intune set up and operating at the moment, a huge part of the workstation configuration is already there, ready and waiting for you. Particularly if you use something like Autopilot to deploy new workstations. You can reuse all those existing policies for installing all the right applications, configuring the security policies with the cloud PCs that will all be there ready and waiting for you. Finally, managing Windows 365 devices. This is just a real point that I found when I started managing these devices. I found this very useful. Was there is a very simple way to manage all your cloud PCs in a single group. You can create a dynamic group and tell it to check for devices that have the cloud PC device type, and that will give you a group. Whenever you add a new cloud PC or remove one, they get added and removed automatically. But you essentially have the ability to control all of your cloud PCs within a single dynamic group, applying whatever relevant policies and configuration that you need from your Endpoint Manager console. Moving on to Windows 11, specifically what's new with Windows 11, what features you might get out of upgrading or deploying Windows 11 to your environment. The main things that I want to talk about, Windows 11 introduces a new set of requirements for both performance and security, the new TPM, UEFI, and secure boot requirements. Windows 365 supports all of the hardware requirements as standard as part of the new baseline configuration. That's all done in the Azure backend, in the virtual machine configuration. All the new TPM and UEFI requirements are pre-built into Windows 365. Windows 11 also has an improved user interface that provides end users the ability to quickly and easily maximize their desktop real estate. I'm sure we've all had situations where you just need one more screen to finish what you're working on. With Windows 11, it's easy to snap those screens into place and make the use of whatever desktop space you have. It also, with the integration of Power Automate, there's advanced automation features to streamline repetitive tasks. You can quickly build workflows using drag and drop options, or you can use a recorder to capture workflows in real time as they're being performed. So essentially, if you run through a repetitive task once while it's being recorded, Power Automate, which is built into Windows 11, will capture that and allow you to rerun that at any point without you having to carry out those steps each time. Basically, Windows 11 aims to improve productivity by reducing the time wasted by end users doing repetitive tasks. Windows 11 is also the most secure Windows operating system yet. It's zero trust ready. The desktop operating system is ready to protect your data, provide secure access anywhere. Working with Microsoft's latest multi-factor authentication, you can move towards passwordless operation. No more, needing to remember passwords or change passwords. The option for going fully passwordless is closer than ever with Windows 11. You can leverage features like conditional access and the Authenticator app to achieve that, rather than having complex password policies to manage and ensure that users are resetting their passwords and not recycling all passwords. Another feature that's new to Windows 11 is universal printing. Universal printing it addresses a problem a lot of IT administrators have had over the last 2 years, and that's allowing users to still manage print queues and still make use of printers and multifunction devices without being able to connect to a print server. So when we all started working from home, we lost access to a lot of our traditional on-premise resources like print servers. Universal printing enables users to easily move between locations and have a seamless printing experience. It also gives IT teams more visibility and control of who's printing and monitoring the print volumes without being tied to a specific server in Office. It's a unified console all within Azure. Finally, Windows 11 has been built to work with as a cloud PC. As I mentioned, with the security features and the hardware requirements, Windows 11 was built to work with Windows 365 and vice versa, enabling users to work remotely and securely without any hardware requirements or dependence on devices being available. To continue on with the point I was making with Windows 365, just reiterating, administrators have the ability to invisibly manage roles of users on their cloud PCs, elevating and de-elevating admin permissions quickly and easily, without needing to interact directly with the device or the user. A few of the other key integrations for Windows 365 and Windows 11 is the Graph API and Windows 3 and Microsoft 365 Lighthouse. So Graph API is an automation API, and cloud PCs fully integrate with Graph. You can use it to create, update, manage, provision new cloud PCs, existing cloud PCs automatically, even down to assigning licenses. The last thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to the integrations that Windows 11 and Windows 365 have is M365 Lighthouse, which is a central management console for MSPs to manage devices, data, users across all their customer tenants. This, of course, includes licensing and provisioning of those cloud PCs. So that can all be done across multiple customer tenants from a single interface using Lighthouse. The last thing that I wanted to touch on before handing over to Pratima for the demo is a couple of use cases of why people should start using Windows 365. A couple of things that I've sort of found talking to other administrators and within our own business as well. The key benefit to using Windows 365 is it's simple, flexible, and fast to deploy without any hardware dependency. And the big benefit to that is it eliminates the need and the cost of purchasing and shipping hardware, making it ideal for setting up remote workers, interstate workers, overseas workers. The fast cloud deployment means no more waiting for stock or hardware shipping or back orders. I'm sure a lot of us have had challenges over the last 2 years when it comes to hardware procurement, transport with couriers, or just generally managing infrastructure across states and country borders. It's definitely been a new challenge just dealing with the lack of stock on shelves, and being able to, once you've got a device, being able to ship it to a remote user or a user interstate. With Windows 365 using cloud PCs, you don't have that issue anymore. As long as they have any device, they'll be able to access their workstation quickly and easily. The cloud PCs also have a few other benefits. They can offer a clean and ideal end user instance for application development. So if you have developers that need to test applications, they'll often have their own development machines that are bespoke to the development process. But when it comes to testing applications, they often need a second machine that's set up in the same way that an end user would access it. Windows 365 is great for that. You can provision a standalone platform for developers to test applications on, and they don't have to sacrifice the capabilities of their development workstation. I've also worked with multiple systems administrators that have used Windows 365 to test Windows 11 within their environment, to test application readiness. Before rolling out to the wider business, they've set up Windows 365 with Windows 11 instances, selected their pilot users to test daily workflows without the risk of roadblocks causing any serious loss of productivity. So if any issues are discovered, the users always have the option to essentially close their Windows 365 window and continue to work on their local machine as well. And finally, Windows 365 being fully integrated with Microsoft Intune means that if you have an existing autopilot configuration, then you have the ability to continue to manage that without a large amount of overhead for configuration or anything like that. Cool. So that's all I have for the technical overview of Windows 365. I'm now going to pass on to Pratima for our demo, and she'll run through the end user and the administration experience for Windows 365.
Thanks, James. I hope I'm audible enough. So what I wanted to do today was, James and Paul spoke about what Windows 365 is, how exactly we are trying to work on providing two important aspects. One is for the administrator on deploying any VDI solution or a desktop as a service solution requires a lot of effort on what is the storage, what is the compute, what is the design, how do we scale up and down. So with Windows 365, we were trying to provide a solution that was simple and similar to what they were doing previously with their physical desktop or mobile devices under the umbrella of Endpoint Manager. Now, second main aspect with this hybrid world and with VDI and desktop as a service was, how do we provide an experience that is very simple and, to James' point, consistent with the end user around the experience perspective. Now, during my demonstration today, I'll try to take you through these two aspects. Now, first is the most important aspect is, for an end user is the experience, which is directly proportional to retaining the IT staff and their interest and how exactly they're performing in their own jobs. Now, with Windows 365, we are not trying to build a solution that becomes very new to the end user to adopt and learn. We are trying to integrate Windows 365 with existing Microsoft 365 applications, so it becomes another solution of what they're already using. Now, what you see on the screen right now is the My Apps portal, wherein all your application that you're subscribed to or you're licensed to under M365 app or third party or line of business application, that you have integrated with Azure Active Directory or with Active Directory will show up here. Now with Windows 365, we try to integrate that directly under the MyOps portal. So you have all your application and there you have Windows 365. So I've created some important applications for my user account, and Windows 365 is one of those important applications, but this is where the end user is consuming the compute running out of Azure Cloud. Now, when we click on the Windows 365 service, it takes us to an information worker portal that we have built as a landing page to access Windows 365 services. Now, as Paul mentioned, it is a personal, persistent, monthly consumption-based model wherein you assign a license to a user and he's consuming that particular license, which in the background is the compute, storage, and RAM for that particular user. So in my case, when I access this information worker portal, I am assigned to this particular cloud PC with the configuration that you see on the screen. We are trying to be consistent across platform and devices. So we are not trying to say that, okay, I have a Windows device and I'll get the experience of consuming my cloud PC only from Windows device. If the user is accessing their Windows device remotely, or their developer, or they're using any other platform, they have a capability to access their cloud PCs from any of those platforms. So you see we have support for Windows, iOS, Android, Mac, or any other platform within HTML browser support, wherein they can access the information worker portal via the HTML browser. Now, this is the landing page. We are allowing an experience to an end user just like they have it for their physical PC. So this is my cloud PC license, and I'm giving the end user all the controls to control that cloud PC, wherein it could be a restart, it could be a rename, wherein I'm providing a friendly name that is known to me, or if I want to troubleshoot something wherein I'm seeing some challenges with accessing the cloud PC and I want to know whether it is an application issue or it's an underlying network issue on that particular cloud PC, I can see the system information. And we are also working on integrating the resize option directly at the information worker portal, wherein if an end user is licensed for an appropriate cloud PC, he would be able to even resize cloud PCs depending on the performance of that. Now, when I click on this cloud PC, it'll open up the control or action to log into that particular cloud PC, which is very similar on how you do it on your physical desktop. I would be given an option if I want any redirection from my endpoint. So I'm right now using a Windows endpoint. It could be anything. And if I have any printer or a clipboard or any kind of USB attached to that endpoint, I have the capability to redirect those to my cloud PC. As an Intune admin or a global admin, I could restrict that from the Intune portal on who has access to that. But right now, I have not done that. So I get basically a message on what kind of redirection I would want on my cloud PC. I click connect. I have to do the authentication, and then we get an SSO experience to all the applications that are installed on those cloud PCs. Now, James was talking about gallery images a lot. So right now, here I am. I was working on this cloud PC, so I'll just do a collapse mode so that it gives that complete experience. There it is. This is my cloud PC. So I am landed on a page where I left off, I think, a couple of hours before I was presenting this to one more customer of mine. So I was showing them what are the various cloud PC options that we have. So I'd open up this particular browser on my cloud PCs just to show, okay, depending on the user personas that exist in an organization, depending on the use cases that exist in an organization, we are trying to align those cloud PCs or those compute and storage model for those cloud PCs. So if you see on the extreme left-hand side, these are the models of cloud PCs that are available right now. And we are working on extending that cloud PC sizing depending on the feedback that we are getting. Like GPU is important feedback that we have got, and we are working on getting GPU supported cloud PCs as well. Now, if you see, these are the models. You get a license at a specific specification of the vCPU, storage, and RAM. You assign that license. You create a provisioning policy, which is simply what is the image. Are you using a gallery image or are you using a custom image, and the license, and what is the kind of network that you want? What is the state of the device? Is it hybrid AD join? Is it Azure Active AD join? And you get the cloud PC. The important effort to create the compute, storage, the design, the network flow, to scale the machine up and down is all removed. You get a cloud PC as soon as you assign a cloud license to that user. Now on my cloud PC, I have on the gallery image, I have all the optimization enabled by default. So Teams media optimization for audio and video, all M365 application optimization is by inbuilt available. So I get an SSO experience to all the M365 apps that I have on that particular cloud PC. Now, this was mostly on the end user side. So what you would see here, it is a very similar physical, personal, persistent experience that the end user had with their physical devices. But with this cloud PC, you're able to take the cloud PCs across different platforms, different regions, and get the same experience. Now, moving on to an important aspect is the admin experience. Now, for admin, it is nothing new. It is the same endpoint manager console that they were working on before managing their physical devices or their mobile devices. So if I go on to the devices section, which if you're working on Intune or co-management, you would be very familiar, your cloud PCs would come under the Windows section. So we have not created a different category to manage your cloud PCs. It is managed as you're managing your physical devices. So you see here, I have mostly a lot of cloud PCs, but if there are any physical devices that you have running Windows, they would also come in parallel with the cloud PCs. So you could create compliance policy, configuration policies that could be targeted as per your organization across all your devices. Or as James was mentioning, you can have grouping using dynamic groups and have cloud PCs in a certain group, depending on how you target your compliance configuration policies or how do you do the updates on those particular devices. Now, this shows for an IT admin, it's not a different experience to manage and monitor those particular devices. Now, the important aspect is, okay, it is very similar. IT admin do not need that effort to manage and monitor. How do we enroll or how do we get a cloud PCs? And it is simple as that. So I am going to switch to another portal over here so that I can show that to you right away. So this I did just before this particular demo. So for you to create a cloud PCs, the only three things that are required are what is the image that you would want. So if I am trying to create a cloud PC, and I can show it right away while we are doing that, and this is it. The page that you're seeing, those are the only important elements that are required to create a cloud PC. So I will just say test cloud PC here. Description for what department, why exactly do you need it? What is the state of this particular device? Are you trying to join this in a hybrid AD join? That means you would need a line of sight to your on-premises domain controller. That means you would need a network in Azure which has line of sight to your domain controller. So maybe ExpressRoute or site to site, or you need Azure AD join, which is registered in Azure Active Directory, does not lead line of sight to your domain controller. The second is, if it is an Azure AD join, you have an option of even giving the network hosted to Microsoft. So you really do not need any element to be created in Azure. We will maintain your compute, we will maintain your storage, and we will do your network as well. But some customers have controls that they need to do on their network, some kind of flow that they want the traffic to go. Then you could have an on-premises network connection. That means you would need to create a network or virtual network in your Azure, create your policies, and obviously the data egress bandwidth and usage cost would be applied on those. So I am saying, okay, let me take a Microsoft hosted network, which region you want those cloud PCs. So these are all the available regions that we have. And we recommend that the region you're having your cloud PC, try to have your virtual network also in that cloud PC. So let me just choose Australia East for now, and then go ahead. The image type, You have gallery image, you have custom image. We highly recommend that you use gallery image because these are optimized for M365 apps and Teams audio and video redirection. You could choose custom image as well. And then the maintenance and optimization is something that you need to do. These are all the optimization and all the operating system that we have with the release of Windows 11. That was the immediate operating system that we landed with Windows 365 as well. So let me just choose that. I select, I go next. That is fine, the language and the group. This is where I need a group which has user who have the appropriate Cloud PC license assigned. So if I want James, Paul, or Pratima to get or deliver a Cloud PC, I would need them to have that per monthly based license assigned depending on the specification, 2 vCPU, 4 vCPU, 8 vCPU. So I need to add them to a group, and I will basically choose, in my case, Contoso is one of the group which has the license. That's it, done. These are the only aspects. So what is the network, what is the image, and what is the group that you want to target, and I would be able to create that particular Cloud PC. So once I create the Cloud PC, it will take a couple of minutes. Mostly it takes 20 to 30 minutes to create that. I go back here and I'll try to show when it's while it is trying to build those aspects. So since it is a personal and persistent experience, we have feedback that users, in case of developer personas, might need local admin rights on those Cloud PCs. Again, we have given this particular control to the Intune admin or global admin, whether those Cloud PCs needs local admin. If yes, you could create a user setting here, which would align to have the local admin rights on those Cloud PCs. So this was the whole deployment model, which is hardly nothing. You have to just create a provisioning policy, the installation of the operating system, the registration in Active Directory or Azure Active Directory is automatically done in the background by Windows 365 service. Now, one more important aspect that I really do not want to miss before I talk finally about the licenses is the reporting. You manage your devices, you deploy your devices, you have to monitor them also. How do you know the performance is happening right, the signings are happening right, the total time to access those particular Cloud PC is according to the baseline of your organization. And again, as I said, this is not something new that you have to deploy for your Windows 365. We have integrated reports in Endpoint Analytics, which will help you provide that. So with the launch of Windows 365 service, we got two new reports that you see in Endpoint Analytics, which are basically targeted for Cloud PCs. One is the resource performance, which is basically a score of vCPU and RAM on your Cloud PCs, depending on their model and device performance that we provide you right out of the box. And depending on this, you could do a resizing as well. Second one is the remoting connection. What was the sign-in experience? How much was the round trip time for your Cloud PCs, depending on their model, depending on 2 vCPU, 4 vCPU, depending on the device performance? What was the sign-in experience? And this is where, when we are doing a lot of proof of concept, or when we are doing a lot of deployment in the production environment, customers are trying to baseline using this. Okay, my user is sitting in Australia, they are trying to access Cloud PCs in XYZ location. This is a baseline for sign-in. If it is under that, good. Otherwise, we want to maybe make it closer to the user or have higher specifications of Cloud PC. Now, the last thing is, how do we assign a Cloud PC license? Again, not creating new wheels that the customer needs to understand. Everything is done on the Admin Center or Windows365.com portal. You have to purchase those licenses. There is no limit depending on your use case scenario, your use cases, or the kind of personas that you're looking at. You need to just look at that particular user. So in my case, if I look at my user account, so this is my user account. All I have to do is once you purchase the Cloud PC license from the Windows 365 portal or talking to the Microsoft representative, you have to just go like you go for any other M365 application license. You need to just assign the license here. So right now, Pratima Singh, who is in this particular tenant, is basically eligible to have all these Cloud PC. So as soon as I apply or click this particular license, and if there is a provisioning policy that aligns to Pratima Singh, I will get this particular Cloud PC assigned to Pratima Singh as well. So this was overall the end user experience, the IT admin experience, and the licensing of Windows 365 that I wanted to showcase, just to again emphasize on the fact of the building block of Windows 365 was to have a simple, consistent experience for both users and admin, like the way they were managing physical PCs. That was it from my side. Over to you, Paul.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Pratima. I mean, that was a fantastic overview. And in the interest of time, and just to move to the next slide, here we go. Okay, I guess before we move into our question and answer session, you're probably wondering what's the best way to get started with Windows 365. And we've put together an offer for webinar attendees today. We have a great get started with Windows 365 package, around about $7,000. And if you'd like to know more, then please feel free to contact us after this webinar. As you can see here on the slides snapshot, it shows you a snapshot of what you actually get inside the package. If you need a package that's specific to your own particular needs, we can accommodate that also. So in the interest of time, as I said, let's now go straight to the Q&A session. And I can see here one of the first questions, and I'll direct this to Jimmy. Will Teams or Zoom video calls work on a virtual machine, or will they be glitchy due to performance issues?
Yeah, look, they definitely do work, and they don't have any inherent glitchiness or anything like that because of the optimization that Pratima was mentioning in those image builds and the Windows 365 environment. The only caveat there is normally around bandwidth.
Okay, and another question here: how quickly are Windows 365 desktops able to be provisioned to the next user? Are there any caveats? Well, I'll take this one myself. I think basically all it comes down to is the admin would reset the username and password, and the next user would use that username and password to log into that particular Cloud PC. I hope we've got the context of that question correct. Question number 3 here is, how are Windows 365 machines backed up? How about Pratima? You want to take that one?
Sure, I can do that. So while I was doing the demonstration, I did talk about the compute storage, and if the customer wants, even the network is something that we do on a concept of Microsoft on behalf hosted, right? Now, from the backup perspective, we have the backup. Imagine if you're trying to move from one Cloud PC to another Cloud PC, the redirection or the backup restoration would be using OneDrive for move. So whatever you have in your OneDrive, or if you're using any kind of document redirection, that would move. Now, inherent underlying backup is interzone. So we are right now providing you a backup and DR capability between the data center in a zone. So for example, Australia has 3 zones. So between one zone, between the data center, that's capability is something that we already offer.
Okay, thanks, Pratima. All right, unfortunately, we've run up against the time wall. However, we do have all your questions listed, and we will certainly get back to you. And furthermore, if you have any questions outside of what's been listed here and what you've heard today, then again, please feel free to contact us, and we can certainly make contact with you. Sandy, I believe I'm going to hand back to you now.
Great. Thanks, Paul, Jimmy, and Pratama for today's presentation. We'll now give everyone a quick minute to complete the survey. Please notice the link to the survey in your message panel in green. We appreciate your participation. Thanks again for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the session and that you found today's information valuable. If you had a question that wasn't answered or addressed in the live session, as Paul mentioned, please feel free to ask your question in the comments section of the survey. Also, as a reminder, you can access the event recording by clicking on the same link you used to join today's session. Thanks everybody again for joining us today. This concludes today's event. You may now disconnect.